All right, so today we're diving into something pretty interesting. Um, you know, it might seem like it's a world away, but it could actually hit pretty close to home for all of us. And that is the likely resignation of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. We've got some fascinating articles from Yahoo News, Reuters, and even Fox News giving us the scoop on what's happening north of the border.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, how it could affect you even if you don't live in Canada.
Yeah, it's easy to think, oh, this is just another political, shakeup. But I think that the reasons behind Trudeau's likely departure and the potential consequences are things that we can all relate to, especially when you consider the economics behind all of it.
All right.
It's not just about personality or, political maneuvering.
Right.
We all remember Trudeau and his sunny ways image.
Yeah.
But his approval ratings have plummeted. I mean, one poll even put him at a 68% disapproval.
Wow.
Which is a pretty steep fall from grace.
It is.
So what's driving that shift in public opinion?
Well, I think if you think about the challenges that many countries are facing right now, like a housing crisis, inflation, squeezing everybody's budgets, and even a decline in per capita GDP, meaning the average person's piece of the economic pie is shrinking.
Right.
Canada's in the same boat, and it's hitting people's wallets hard.
Yeah. It's like those economic anxieties are universal these days.
Oh, yeah.
And to make matters even worse, Canada's Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland just dramatically resigned.
Wow.
And her letter was pretty brutal. She slammed Trudeau for focusing on political gimmicks instead of tackling serious issues like potential trade wars. So,
yeah, Freeland's exit is a huge red flag, I think. It signals a loss of confidence, not just from the public, but also from within Trudeau's own party.
right.
And that kind of instability can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
You think about it. If a country's leadership is shaky, it affects everything from international relations to trade agreements, which ultimately impact everyone.
And speaking of political earthquakes, there's that looming no-confidence vote coming up.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is planning to bring a motion forward. And if that passes, let's just say it could completely change the Canadian political landscape.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, especially for those who maybe aren't familiar with how Canada's government works. So imagine you're trying to build something amazing with Legos,
Okay.
but you need your friends to lend you some bricks to make it tall enough.
Okay.
That's kind of what it's like for Trudeau's Liberal Party right now.
Right.
They don't have enough bricks on their own to stay in power. They need the support of other parties.
So the NDP is like a friend holding some crucial Lego pieces.
Exactly.
And they might just decide to walk away with their bricks.
Exactly. And that's why their position is so critical right now. If they pull their support, it could trigger a political crisis in Canada with consequences that could be felt far beyond their borders.
Yeah, and you mentioned consequences beyond Canada's borders. It's easy to think, oh, Canada, that's up north. It doesn't really affect me. But it sounds like that's not the case here.
Not at all. No, think about who's watching all of this unfold very closely. The U.S., with President-elect Donald Trump at the helm. Remember, one of Freeland's big concerns in her resignation letter was about potential trade wars, especially with Trump's talk of tariffs.
Right. That whole America First rhetoric has a lot of people nervous about what trade will look like going forward.
Yeah.
So how does all this political drama in Canada play into that?
Well, imagine you're at a store and the price of your favorite cereal suddenly goes up because of some import tax. That's what tariffs can do. They add costs to goods crossing borders. And who pays those costs? You do, the consumer.
Right.
Now, Canada and the U.S. have this close trading relationship. But if Canada's leadership changes, their whole approach to trade deals could change too.
So you're saying this isn't just some abstract political game. This could actually affect what I see on store shelves and how much I pay for things.
Exactly. A new prime minister might be more willing to stand up to Trump on trade, which could lead to those tariffs that Freeland was worried about. Or they might try to appease him, which could mean concessions that aren't in the best interest of Canadians or even the global economy. It's a delicate balance, and the stakes are high for everyone.
Yeah. It's kind of unsettling to realize how connected things are. Like, this political drama in Canada could end up costing me more at the grocery store here in the U.S.
That's the reality of our globalized world. What happens in one country, especially a major player like Canada, has ripple effects. And this isn't just about trade either. It can impact things like energy prices, travel, and even environmental policies that have global implications.
It's interesting you brought up the global impact because one thing that really stuck out to me in these articles was this incident where Trudeau was spotted at a concert while riots were breaking out in Montreal. It seemed like a small thing, but it caused a huge uproar.
Yeah, that incident, while seemingly trivial, speaks to something much deeper. the public's perception of their leaders. In today's world, everything is amplified by social media. There's this constant scrutiny, and even seemingly small missteps can become major controversies.
So even if Trudeau manages to weather this political storm, his image, like Sunny Way's persona, is kind of tarnished, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if any leader can really escape that kind of intense public scrutiny these days.
Yeah, it's a tough job being a leader in the 21st century. You're constantly under the microscope, and your actions, both public and private, are dissected and debated. It raises some interesting questions. What do we expect from our leaders? How do we balance personal lives with public image? And how much power does public perception really have in shaping political outcomes?
Yeah, it really does feel like we're at a crossroads, not just in Canada, but like globally.
Yeah.
We've got this economic uncertainty and political instability and the sense that maybe the old rules don't apply anymore.
Right. And in times like these, the kind of leadership that emerges can make all the difference. So if Trudeau does step down, who will Canadians choose to lead them through these challenges? And what will that choice mean for the rest of us?
It's funny, we started this deep dive talking about, Justin Trudeau,
Right.
but it feels like we've uncovered something much bigger. This interconnected web of economics, politics, and even social media, all shaping the world we live in.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to stay curious, to keep asking questions and to think critically about the information we're bombarded with every day.
So as we wrap things up, what's the one key takeaway you'd want our listeners to walk away with from this deep dive?
I'd say this. What's happening in Canada right now is a microcosm of the challenges we're all facing. It's a reminder that seemingly distant events can have a very real impact on our lives, and that the choices made by leaders, whether in Ottawa or Washington or anywhere else, have consequences that ripple outward.
So it's not just about following the headlines. It's about understanding how those headlines translate into concrete changes that could affect our everyday lives.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that we all have a role to play, whether it's staying informed, engaging in thoughtful discussions, or simply demanding better from our leaders.
Well said. So to our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Canadian politics, economics, and the ripple effects that could be felt around the world. It might have started with Justin Trudeau, but it's really a story about all of us,